Hey, hey, hey. How's it going, everybody? I'm going to move around my camera here, try to get into position. All right, I'm going to try to cook some chicken for you. But before that, before I do that, I just want to let everybody know, all my friends out there on Twitter and Reddit and YouTube and Facebook, I'm opening up a Facebook page called Nickel Academy. It's aimed towards having some resources out there and some videos and educational things to help out teachers and parents over the coming weeks with the coronavirus pandemic. And so a lot of it's going to be just general enrichment activities. And so I'm just going to do a cooking demonstration. I have a griddle here. I picked it up off of eBay, I believe, or Amazon. It's just a 1/4-inch cold rolled steel griddle. This was a camping stove that was given to me. It was sitting in my brother-in-law's backyard collecting ants. And I had to clean out all the propane tubing. And it's a great little camping stove. It's actually portable, but I folded up the legs and put it on this table I built. And it works pretty good. So I'm going to take it on a maiden voyage of just doing some chicken and vegetables, and I'm using thigh meat, and the vegetables are just bell peppers and onions, and they've been sitting in a tahini seasoning. You can get tahini at any grocery store pretty much these days. It's a great little chili. It's like a chili pepper style seasoning with sea salt and dehydrated lime juice, and I really love using it on vegetables when I'm going to do any kind of cooking. It's great on fish, on chicken, steak. It doesn't matter. It's just a good seasoning. By the way, I'm not sponsored. And I don't monetize any of my videos either, so you shouldn't see any ads. In here, this is a cool little Lodge cast iron pot, and what I do with this is I actually use this is coconut oil, butter, and olive oil. I'm a little worried about the coconut oil, but I decided to give it a try. And what I'm going to do is I'll put it on here in a second, but I want to take a reading of the temperature of the surface of the griddle. And it's saying 311, 383, and on this side it's about 400 degrees. So I know I'm going to get a little bit of flash when I put this oil on the hot side over here, but that's where I'm going to start with the vegetables. I like starting with the vegetables first, and then I'll move on to chicken here in a second. All right. I'm going to use, these are Teriyaki style spatulas like you would see at a hibachi type of restaurant. Boy, you can smell that coconut oil. Okay, and I like these because it's just easy to maneuver everything. Get everything kind of separated, spread out a bit. Now I've also got mushrooms, but I'm not going to do the mushrooms until the very end. And by the way, I'm not a trained professional when it comes to cooking. I've just worked in a few restaurants over the years, and I love to cook. It's just part of what I do. I like smoking meats and experimenting. And there's no perfect one way of doing cooking. Otherwise, you wouldn't have fine chefs, would you? Everybody would be cooking the same thing. It's the people who experiment and step out of the box a little bit are the ones that really wow the people. I'm not really one of them. I do love watching chef shows though. Always willing to learn new things. Let me bring my heat up just a little bit over here. Start laying this chicken down. Try to flatten them out as you go. Well, I can smell the vegetables. By the time I get this chicken done, those vegetables will be ready to stir up. Oh, by the way, my daughter had a really good joke she made up. She's a joke writer, by the way. My daughter. She is hilarious. She said, "Did you hear about the bird with road rage? It was a goose. Honk honk." Oh my gosh. Spread out that thigh meat. The thigh meat I have pollo asado seasoning. I can make my own blends, but sometimes when you're in a hurry, and especially during a pandemic, you don't necessarily want to be going to the store for every single ingredient, right? So pollo asado seasoning is made by Lowry's, and then I also added tahini to this as well. Now this side here is hanging off the stove a bit, so I know that's a cold side, and this side's a cold side over here. So the key with griddling is that you know where your zones are at all times. Because the best part is you can do what's called a hot hold. You can hot hold your food without cooking it further with those types of zones. Now that wasn't by design, that was by luck. My griddle just happened to be a few inches wider than the thing, and I knew it was going to be too big, and that's perfectly fine with me because it gives you more freedom. All right, toss these around a little bit. The wind just kicked up. That's looking good. It's the only problem about cooking outdoors. You got to watch the wind so it doesn't blow your flames out underneath. Good. The other thing about adding, the vegetables don't affect the heat quite as much, but when you pile on that much cold meat on the griddle, it's instantly going to take that griddle temperature, the core temperature, down a few degrees. So the key for me with any type of cooking on a grilling or an oven or a griddle is that you're really going to be doing most of your cooking on one side, especially with chicken. And what you're going to do is you're going to watch for the meat to start to go from that pink and red to more of like a white color about halfway through the meat. And then when you flip it, it's pretty much going to be done after a few minutes. But, you know, chicken, you want to make sure it's cooked thoroughly. You want to bring it up to at least 165. I like to go a little bit warmer. I mean, I like juicy chicken, don't get me wrong, but I feel like when you go just a touch higher than that, 180 or so, you can really make sure that you got it where you need it to be. And the only thing I forgot out here was my digital temperature probe. Kind of a must-have. I mean, I can get by without it. You can do the pressure test. Chicken also is done when you break into it, and it's kind of flaky, kind of like fish. Boy, those are going to be good. All right. So these pieces here are looking pretty good. Man, what an interesting time we're living in. Yeah, so the Facebook streaming thing, the page is Nickel Academy, and I'm going to be doing some live streaming from there, and a lot of that is going to be mostly reading out loud, and it'll be something where if you follow the page, you can be notified when we go live, and it won't be just me either. It's going to be my wife, who's a third grade teacher, and members of my family, perhaps. And I also do some music things, and it would be neat to show you some tools online that your child, and you know, maybe you like learning about it too. Very general. Nothing too deep. Not afraid to make mistakes live on camera, okay? Because that's just part of the education process too. All right. It's looking pretty good. Look at that. There we go. I'm gonna just flip right on over to these tongs. That surface is nice and greasy. Oh, look at that. There we go. Now as the meat cooks, it's going to lose some moisture. Now these aren't ready to flip yet. I'm just going to move them over here to the heat. They lose moisture and they get smaller, see? So now I can hug them in a little closer to the higher heat, get their first side finished. Make quite sure that every piece is completely done. Personally, I wish I had a couple of jalapenos on here, but I'm not going to the store for any small trips, and neither should you. It's pretty wise just to stay indoors, find ways to entertain yourself, and keep a positive attitude and get some exercise every now and then. By every now and then, I know if my buddy Frank is listening, he'd be like, every day, sometimes twice a day. He's not wrong. All right. Very cool. Just gonna add a little more of the oil here. Oh boy, it's smelling good there. Rocking and rolling. So what I do when I push in on that, I mean, if it bounces back, it's not ready. It needs to be, you know, if I push in and my finger breaks through and it wants to split, you know you're good. That's my, some people do this method here where you push here, you can kind of feel what this area of your hand feels like. You know, if you're tensing up and it's really tough, then you know you're kind of getting there. If you push in on the chicken here, you don't want to burn your finger. Best way to do it though is just have a digital thermometer handy. But we'll do without for now. I'm all tethered up on a microphone here. Hopefully you can hear me better without a bunch of wind noise, and you can probably hear the sizzle and crackle too. Someday I'd like to get a DSLR with a body pack and the whole thing and do a couple of angles and stream live on OBS, but it's a lot of money we don't need to spend right now. I'm sure everybody feels kind of the same way. So I'm curious in the comments below, kids and families, what's working for you at home with the distance learning? You know, the educators we're doing everything we can. It's been, I feel like, almost more work than just being at school, trying to figure this whole thing out in real time, you know? So what do you like? Are you using Seesaw? Are you using, oh, that's looking good there. Are you using Seesaw? Are you doing choice boards? And what's the other app that's out there? There's so many things out there. Are you guys getting used to the Zoom meetings? That company is doing pretty well, I'm sure, right now. They're kind of keeping the education and teaching world afloat. What a phenomenal invention Zoom has been. I'm gonna go ahead and flip these here. Yeah, it's looking good. These are getting a nice caramelization going on them. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here in a second with these vegetables to finish them off. I'll try a bite. That's phenomenal. So This is a blend of sauces. It's Marsala cooking wine, oyster sauce, just a little bit of oyster sauce. Oyster sauce is used a lot in Asian cuisine, but a little bit goes a long way. It adds a little bit of a fishy taste to it, but if you do it just right and balance it out with some other things, it adds a really robust flavor. So soy sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce, Marsala cooking wine, and my favorite of all time, and I use a lot of it, is Worcestershire sauce. And those four in here make a pretty neat little blend. And what I'm going to do is take it and squirt it right on the vegetables. Squirt it right on the chicken. There's a little bit of, I think I said teriyaki, just a little bit, not a ton. Now, if you put that on too early, that can really kind of scald. You don't want to do that. Oh, I lost the pepper. He jumped overboard. It's all right. These type of spatulas are just lovely for, look at that. You can get a whole bunch of stuff off at once. I went to a hibachi restaurant, and I'm sure you felt the same as I did the first time. I mean, I wish I could throw an egg up and crack it. Maybe that's what we do, is a live stream of me trying to do that. I just don't want to waste the food. So even if I crack it, I should probably, pick the shells out and then reuse the egg for an omelet or something. All right, I'm going to take this piece here, cut it, see how we're doing in there. It's looking pretty good. Oh, mercy. Yeah, those are good. Ooh-wee, that's good. But doing that sauce on there right at the end, it does hit the heat, and that really just makes a pop in flavor. Yeah, that's good. I know you're like, Mr. Nickel, you're handling raw chicken. Why would you touch that with your hands? It's a very good point. Hopefully, if you rewind the video, I think I was using my right hand to handle all the chicken, but I'm tasting with my left. I wiped off my hand with a towel, but that's no substitute for gloves and common sense. Wow. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, these are looking good. Put that right over that. Center this stuff right over the burners here. Notice how I'm cutting into it. I can feel by cutting it. Yeah. Looking good. Now, you'll notice on the back side of my griddle, I'm getting some stuff that's getting charred up. That's okay. We're going to make use of that. Because what I'm going to do is actually deglaze this griddle using water. But before I do that, I'm going to throw my mushrooms on there. Now, when I go to griddle mushrooms, I don't pre-season them at all. Mushrooms have this texture, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but they really take on flavor, like really take it on. So I don't pre-salt them. I don't oil them, nothing. Nothing. I'm gonna move this chicken over to this side because this side is getting hot back here. And that's where I'm gonna start with the mushrooms. Whee! And I can go ahead and turn the heat off on this side. It's gonna be hot enough to finish. I'll move those mushrooms around. Oh my goodness sakes. I'm gonna cook those around over here. Mushrooms are gonna take all that, all the burnt little bits over there are gonna come off with the mushrooms. Man. It also kind of helps to clean your griddle a bit. You get the first part out of the way, pretty easy. Look at those beautiful mushrooms. Hey, Maddie. Never mind. I was gonna have her get me something, but that's all right. All right. Good, good, good. These pieces are all done. Now, set the heat up on this side. Fantastic. Now, I know a lot of people don't like mushrooms, and I think, again, it's a texture thing for some. Some just don't understand the flavor. But if you give yourself a chance to try mushrooms that have been cooked differently, you know, I'll put it this way. Maybe your first experience with a mushroom was because you had canned mushrooms. That always kind of reminded me of like snails in a can. Just the flavor and the texture is just terrible. But when you griddle them, that's a whole new experience. I'm going to take these off for a minute. In a minute, but I want to show you this chicken. Isn't that beautiful? Well, I'm going to go inside and feed my face. If you like what you see, I'm going to put this on YouTube and the Nickel Academy Facebook page. I'll put a link back to both places in the description. If I can, I'm going to include a picture of the ingredients that I used, you know, before I brought everything out here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday here, April 2nd, 2020. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.